Hello and welcome to episode 268 of the Paint All the Minis podcast. It was very authoritative and forceful, that one, wasn't it? I think it was the most forceful hello and welcome I've ever done. We put the show together so you can have something to listen to whilst you are sitting at your hobby desk and painting your miniatures of any scale, genre or game. Our aim is to have a relaxed and genuine conversation with someone who's as involved in the hobby as you are, from any level, from top to bottom, because we've all got our own unique and individual stories. So sit at your hobby desk, paint your models, listen to the chat. We really do hope that you enjoy the content. See, that was like a forceful beginning and a friendly ending. This week, I talk once again to Smiddy, aka Dave Schmidt, for those of you who didn't listen to our last show together. Smiddy wanted to talk about why he loves 5 Parsecs from home. That's it. He loves it. We meander along and have a ramble chat about all the things that occur to us during the show. It's also the first reported usage of my actual paint mixer, my electric paint mixer. I've got an electric paint mixer that I never use during the shows, and usually I shake my paints by hand during the show, and you might hear that they've got like little ball bearings in it, so you might hear me shaking in the background, and I think you definitely hear me tinkling my paintbrush in my cup for sure. But this is a bona fide first recorded hearing of my electric mixer, so if you don't stick around for anything else, you can stick around for that, because I saw the opportunity and I took it, and I'm hoping for the Oscar for best natural ambiance now. Thank you to Dave for coming onto the show. It's always great to talk to him, and it was really good to talk to him about why he loves 5 Parsecs from home. Don't forget, if you need to contact me, you can email paintalltheminis@gmail.com. You can join our Facebook group. You can follow us on Blue Sky. You can click on the link to the Discord group in the description, and you can come and hang out with fellow like-minded, laid-back types that enjoy the hobby and lots of other stuff that you enjoy. But I think that's enough of the pre-ramble. Apologies if you are a stickler for listening to the show when it is released. It's a little bit later than usual. I have had a crazy busy week and I've not had a chance to edit and record the intro and outro before this time, so apologies a little bit late if you are a stickler. Hopefully it didn't ruin your enjoyment too much, and hopefully, Mr. Dave, you enjoy the sounds that we made and the edit that I made. That's enough of the pre-ramble. Let's go.
Paint all the minis. Paint all the minis that you can. And when you paint your minis, listen to that podcast with Dan Adams, that is.
What's happening? We have sort of a problem here. You apparently didn't put primer on your latest batch of models you bought. Yeah. See, we're putting primer on all the models now before we paint them. Did you see the memo about this? Yeah, if you could just go ahead and make sure you do that from now on, that would be great. And I'll go ahead and make sure you get another copy of that memo. Okay? Yeah.
So hey, I am here again with Mr. Dave Schmidt. How's it going, Dave?
It is going good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. So, about 8 p.m. Saturday night for you, right?
Yes.
What does a weekend evening generally look like for you? What is your leisure time on a weekend looking like?
Well, it depends on the weekend. Oftentimes it's, get the kids to bed and then maybe the wife and I watch something that we've wanted to watch. Mm-hmm. Something like that. We get to bed pretty early during the weekdays just because of my schedule. So weekend evenings after the kids are in bed is when, we can watch the stuff that maybe has content they're not ready for, things like that.
Yeah. I think I probably told you this, but I really miss movies, and even when the kids are asleep, I haven't really wanted to watch movies because the immersive sound is something that's really important to me in movies. So geeky as it is, we got a amp,
and so you kind of plug it into your TV, and it improves, allegedly, the sound that comes out of the TV. It processes the sound that comes out of the TV, and also it's got like a headphone jack. So me and the wife have started watching movies again recently, and we both kind of sit on the sofa with big headphone sets on, so we can really immerse ourselves in the sound. Are you similar to that, or are you like, nah, I'm just happy to watch it at any volume, just any movie is a good movie?
Yeah, volume doesn't matter too much to me. I've never been too much of like a audiophile. Mm-hmm. It's as long as I can like understand, like hear the dialogue, I don't get too worked up about that personally. But
yeah, I just love it. I think I love the sound just as much as the visual, and it's like the hearing.
I feel like
go on.
Oh, I kind of feel like I'm like the curmudgeon in the movie theater. Is like, can you turn this down a little bit?
Yeah, it's just the little sounds, like the soundboard that they create, the soundscape that they create, with like just little sounds in the background that you can hear. I just think it's really, really great. But anyways, yeah. So watching some movies. Is there a good movie or a good TV show that you've been watching recently you want to call out?
So recently we're doing some like thrift shopping, and found a box set of the entire series of Jeeves and Wooster.
Oh, nice, mate! That's a shout.
Yeah. So for those not initiated, it's based on P.G. Woodhouse's books about a kind of would you call him a debutante? Is that right?
Yeah.
Just rich kid, rich young man, and his valet, his sort of butler character, and just he gets himself into trouble, and the butler gets him out of it.
Yeah. It's really good. It's a really good. It's a really good British show. I wouldn't necessarily go as far as saying it's a sitcom, but it's definitely around that kind of area. But I think the best thing about it is it's done by Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie. So Fry and Laurie, you might have heard of Fry and Laurie, and they're really good actors in their own right, but also really good comedians too, right?
Yeah, and they were actors that I was familiar with, like in like Hollywood or American television context separately. Mm-hmm. And, so at some point I came to realize that these two were, like a British comedy duo.
Yeah.
A bit of Fry and Laurie was, I think before that, and with like a sketch comedy show. And I've seen some of the clips on YouTube, and that is pretty good stuff there.
Yeah, I think if you're
they work really well together.
Yeah,
I'd love to see them do something together again. Now I don't know.
I'm not sure if they come together recently. I have to dig it around because obviously I've been away from home so much that I've not necessarily been up with the TV releases. But yeah, it's I would say they're kind of like a real, genuine, classic, legendary British comedy duo. If you think about people that are into British comedy, things like Blackadder, things like that, they're very, very quintessential when it comes to like watching all the British comedy. That's cool, mate. That's really
because they were both in Blackadder, correct? Like they were.
Yes. Yeah, like various different parts. They're not necessarily always in, but various different parts, various different times. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was Rowan Atkinson's.
Yeah, there's a whole group of people. There's like Rowan Atkinson, there's Ben Elton, who's mostly a writer, Richard Curtis, who's mostly a writer. Richard Curtis, you'd know from movies like Four Weddings and a Funeral and Notting Hill, and Richard Curtis is a really good comedy writer that writes good stories too. And there's a whole bunch of things that he's got his fingerprints on that people don't necessarily know. It makes me really, really sad. I'm sure he's not sad, but Richard Curtis is a name that you don't hear too much, but he writes so much amazing stuff where people maybe remember the actors more than his writing. So yeah, Richard Curtis is probably a legendary British kind of light comedy, like kind of drama writer that is amazing. So yeah, there's a whole kind of stable of writers and performers of that kind of era, the kind of like late 80s to kind of mid 90s, late 90s, that just brilliant comedy that comes out. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I've been a long time admirer of British comedy. I think I discovered Douglas Adams when I was in like high school. Just ate that up. Really fun stuff.
It's just different. Not all of it hits, not all of it lands, but there's it's just a lot of variety. It's the same, generally speaking, in the arts within the British Isles. There's a really wide variety of like just different artists in various different areas. I'd kind of class comedians as artists, kind of. They create an art, and there's a lot of interesting kind of side ones. Like there's a guy that I've been watching a lot of fairly recently over the last kind of 18 months. A guy called Limmy. Limmy, Limmy, and he had a few shows on TV called Limmy's Show, but he also does a lot of YouTube stuff right now, and it's a little bit strange, but it's definitely good. I'll send you some videos later and you can check it out. But yeah, Limmy's Show is a good one to try. There you go. Right, I have prepared a little quiz for you before you begin, and you get to choose. Do you want the Pennsylvania quiz? Or do you want the Maryland quiz?
I will choose Pennsylvania as it is my adoptive home state.
Okay. All right. Let's see how many out of 10 you can get. Okay, number 1. Who is Pennsylvania named after?
William Penn.
That's correct. Admiral Sir William Penn. Nice. 1 from 1, man. It's a good start. Number 2. What is Philly also known as?
The full name would be Philadelphia. The nickname would be the City of Brotherly Love.
Nice, mate. 2 from 2. Okay. What huge battle of the Civil War took place in Pennsylvania?
That would be Gettysburg.
Nice. 3 from 3, mate.
I grew up very close to that. Even when I was in Maryland, we weren't far from Gettysburg. So that'll make the history war gamers jealous.
Nice, yeah. It's one thing that I did. I think I told you this story before, but I went soccer coaching in the US, and we got like a hire car for the week because we had to go to soccer practice, and so we got hire cars, and I could drive. I was slightly older than the other coaches that were part of the group, so I was like the trusted old guy. I think I was like 22, 23 at the time, so I was always in charge of the hire car, and I was the most unpopular guy in the group that week because we got our weekend off. And everyone's like, what are we going to do this weekend? It's like, well, I'm going to the Gettysburg battlefield to drive around. What do you guys want to do? You can either come with me or I can drop you off somewhere and then pick you up. And honestly, mate, I was getting like pelters. They're like, can we not just drive to New York and then we can... It's like, no, I'm going to the Battle of Gettysburg battlefield. So I think I dropped some of them off at a pool somewhere. But I think 1 or 2 of them came with me too. But I think it was more kind of like just to say that they'd been as opposed to any form of interest. But like I got the little CD from the shop and you drive around different points and you stop and it talks. I found it amazing. I don't think anyone else part of the group found it amazing.
I feel it's one of those things where I feel a little guilty that I haven't invested more time into like learning it just because I am so close.
Yeah,
I feel like I should have picked stuff up by osmosis, but there's a lot of people that come to Gettysburg knowing more about it than I ever have.
Yeah, it's often the way, though, isn't it? Yeah, I think what blew me away is the scale of it. How we're not talking about like one afternoon. We're talking about a protracted period over a big, long area in space and a lot of people. Yeah,
bloodiest battle of the Civil War. The bloodiest day was in Antietam, which is in Virginia. But as Gettysburg was a multi-day battle, it earned the infamous title of bloodiest battle.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. You know, I watched a few documentaries, but they said that the battle wasn't necessarily deliberate. It was more like a kind of a small clash that's just steadily escalated, and maybe it was a forced battle from the rebel side. That they didn't necessarily wanted to get into.
I want to say that somebody was headed like towards Hanover for shoes. Like, because I mean, an army, they say an army marches on its stomach, but it does literally march on its feet. So you needed good shoes. And I think there was something about they were trying to get some shoes and they just ran into each other, and it was like, oh, guess we got to kill each other.
Yeah, it's kind of part of the thing. We can't just do rock, paper, scissors and then go home. But anyway, question number 4. What is the main color of the Pennsylvania flag?
Blue, perhaps navy blue.
Blue, yes. What 2 NFL teams are from Pennsylvania?
That would be the Philadelphia Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Nice, mate. 5 from 5. Let's see if we can get any hard ones here. What did Pennsylvania formerly produce in large quantities?
I'm going to guess they're talking about steel.
Coal. Pennsylvania is known as coal country, and for good historical reasons. Over 1/3 of Pennsylvania is on coal seams. The main coal seam is next to Pittsburgh, which I guess links to steel, right?
Yes, it does. And so there was once a really brisk steel trade in Pennsylvania that is just not here anymore. But yeah, coal would have been a part of that. But yeah, it's funny though. I don't live in coal country. Like I am in the corn part of Pennsylvania.
Okay, so you're on the other 2/3 that is not on a coal seam.
I suppose I am. Yes.
How many Super Bowl titles did Pittsburgh win in the decades of the 70s and the 80s? Oh, this is getting hard now. How many Super Bowl titles? How many Super Bowl titles did Pittsburgh win in the decades of the 70s and the 80s?
Jeez, I am not a football guy. I want to say they have 9 now, so I'm going to guess they got 5 of them in that time frame?
Very, very close, mate. 4, 75, 76, 79, and 80. Good job, man. That was very, very close. Last couple. Which lake does Pennsylvania border?
Lake Erie?
Yes. Okay, we'll say last one. Where was one of the greatest floods in the U.S. found in Pennsylvania? Where was one of the greatest floods in the U.S. found in Pennsylvania?
I know it. Is it Jonestown?
Give you that one. Johnstown, mate. Nice. Good effort, man.
Okay.
Good job. So if you're from the kind of northeast US, you could have played along with that. If you're from Pennsylvania, you could have played along with that. But there you go, man. Two incorrect, but the rest of them right. But there, good job.
Yeah, I'll take it. I wasn't sure like how technical it was going to get.
Yeah, no, me neither.
You know,
I wouldn't tell you. I don't say that I read through it before. I was like about 20 minutes before we chatted. I was like, oh, let me do a little quiz. But there you go, man. That's good. Good stuff. Right, so let's kind of start talking more about hobby stuff. So we're here to talk about why you love a certain game. I mentioned that in the intro. We don't necessarily need to go into it here. But one thing I always like to talk about before we talk about that specific game is some nearly made it's. So is there any other games that you've played historically that you could have talked about for why you love but chose not to?
So I'm don't have terribly extensive experience with a large stable of games. I have played some Space Weirdos, which has already been the subject of a Why I Love. Mm-hmm. So that would have been one that I would have been maybe willing to jabber about a bit, although don't have too much experience with it. I'm gonna give honorable mention to Savage Worlds, which is really a tabletop role-playing game, but often played with miniatures. So there's the combat kind of turns into a tabletop miniatures game of a kind, sort of a skirmish thing. Mm-hmm. And that's probably my favorite TTRPG. Mm-hmm. So maybe not quite in the vein of what we're talking about here, but kind of close.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to talk about a variety of different stuff, isn't it? Because, it's not as if like, no, I'm not going to listen to this guy. This guy didn't say tabletop, he said RPG. No, I think we're pretty open-minded with stuff, and sometimes we have got maybe a prejudiced view about a certain genre, and we think, no, we don't like that. You know, I've bumped into people in my life that say, oh, no, I don't like that, and you're like, well, have you tried it? No. So what's the basis that you don't like it? Well, I saw someone eating it once, and I just didn't look like it was nice, so now I hate it. And it's like, well, give it a try. So go on, sell it to us. If people have only ever played maybe tabletop skirmish games or tabletop games, what would be the pitch, the why we should get involved in Savage Worlds?
So I would say that it can be played theater of the imagination, which would be how a lot of people play their TTRPGs, where there's no miniatures. You just kind of the game master tells you whether you're close enough or not to shoot at someone or what have you. But the campaign I've been playing in recently, we use models. We use like a gridded model system. But the real selling point of it to me is it is a setting agnostic rule set. Very easily lends itself to anything that has a pulpy sort of feel to it. So you can do swords and sorcery, you can do space opera. The game I'm playing in is a kind of a modern day horror and cryptids campaign. And the rule set just plays that really well. It really lets you, it makes you feel like the character you're trying to play, and it tends to lend itself towards a lot of successes. Like it's not a particularly punishing game typically, so you get to feel like a pulp hero playing it. Cool. And I do think like the way the action economy works in combat and everything like that, I think it would be appealing to any war gamer who has an interest in doing the more role-playing type games. You know, there's a portion of the game that you're walking around town and you're talking to shopkeepers and trying to get information, and then, you know, you go find the bad guys and you fight. And that segment plays very much like any other war game. You know, it's your turn, you get to activate, so you get to choose what kind of attack you're going to use and where you're going to move to, and all the things that we tend to love about wargaming.
Nice. That's cool, man. Any other shouts before we move on? Savage Worlds is one for sure.
There's some games that I have in my cabinet that I wish I've played.
Go on, talk to us about those then.
Well, looking forward to playing Rangers of Shadow Deep someday.
Yeah.
I wanted to play it fully painted, and I don't have enough buildings yet for like the first scenario.
Yeah.
You know, so I was trying to build up my repertoire, and I didn't want to just put down a piece of cardboard and be like, pretend that's a house. But I could, and I should. It would probably be loads of fun.
Yeah.
But you know, I've got Rangers of Shadow Deep. I've got Stargrave, which I've played a little bit of. You know, another science fiction one. I've got Hobgoblin.
Yeah, nice.
But Hobgoblin, okay. Hobgoblin doesn't really lend itself to solo play. I think you can, but it doesn't really appeal to me. So that's one that I'm just kind of like waiting till I can convince someone to do it with me.
Yeah.
And then I'll give that one a go.
I'm desperately trying to forget my Rangers of Shadow Deep experience so I can play it with my kids, because I think it'll be a really good way to interact with them, because, you know, it's a co-op, you know, solo game. So we can you know, just talk and think about what might be cool, and there's a certain amount of exploration and a little bit of kind of narrative development there about, you know, who is the werewolf? We need to find a werewolf. So I'm kind of trying to desperately forget all that stuff so I can pick it up again and have another great experience with it.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the drawback of it, isn't it? Is like, if you're going to run the game, you kind of have to know all the spoilers off the bat. But that doesn't seem to bother the the scads and scads of fans out there who love the game. So
cool. Right. So let's get on to Five Parsecs then. So let's talk about that, like maybe the history of it. So first, how did you get to be aware of this game, and how long ago was it that you sort of started getting involved in it?
I haven't been involved in it long, so I have a little bit of like imposter syndrome nipping at my heels. I've gotten like a dozen or so games under my belt, so I feel like I'm qualified to talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I honestly, I'm trying to think. I think I started seeing stuff about it a while back, but I had like just gotten Stargrave. That was like my first skirmish rule set that I owned, and I was like, no, I want to learn Stargrave. Like, I need another right now. And it eventually just kind of kept beckoning, and I watched a little shout out here. I watched a battle report, a series of battle reports on a YouTube channel called Me, Myself, and Die.
Yeah.
So he runs solo games.
Yeah.
And he has a really nice, like a full campaign. I think it's 14 episodes or something of him playing Five Parsecs. And as I was interested, I was gameplays. They're really well done videos. He's a very enthusiastic host, and it really sold me on it. I'm watching him play, and I'm like kind of jealous. I'm like, I just want to do it, but like I was enjoying the kind of the cinema of the battle report, but really into the idea of getting it for myself and playing it. So
what was it about it that appealed to you?
I think it was the sort of the whole, like the game as a whole, the whole package. I thought was a really interesting approach to wargaming, especially solo gaming. There's really good character creation and kind of development that just it lends itself well to story, because really I think that's what grabbed me about it, I guess, is the story, the way that it forms a narrative for you. It's kind of like the book functions as the GM for the game in a way, where you're kind of playing against the game, but the game is also like moving you on to the next thing. It's not just trying to stop you. And I think that's what the way the whole package worked together as an engine to tell a narrative that revolved around conflict, but wasn't completely defined by it.
I think that's a good shout. It's a really good shout. Yeah, it's like when I've been involved in Five Parsecs from home, it's been like an invitation to create a narrative. That's kind of how I would kind of boil it down. Is that it kind of gives you the building blocks to be like. I think I don't know. I can only talk for myself, but the book asks me. It says to me, why did that happen? Why is that guy doing that? What's going to happen next? Like, the book asks me metaphorical questions, right? And I'm like, yeah, and because it gives an example of that would be like you kind of when you roll for your character, or when you choose a character, you've got to like choose some general basic kind of ideas about like, you know, why they're there or the background. And I think it kind of gives you a good starting point and be like, why is this guy in this group, or why is that guy doing that? And it gives you a great like fundamental to then jump into a different narrative setting. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think also I like that it asks those questions in a very passive way, where if you don't feel like answering them, you don't have to.
Yeah.
If you're playing solo, it can kind of just be, well, this is my shooty guy and he likes to shoot things because he's good at shooting.
But that's a narrative, right?
Yeah. But it can also be like, well, when I rolled him up, it said he was from a subjugated alien colony, so he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he knew this other guy because this guy was from a high-tech colony or something, and maybe it was the same colony, experienced it differently. There's a lot of opportunity to get as deep into it as you want, but you can also just, you don't have to answer those questions before moving on.
Yeah. That's cool. So the kind of that narrative world kind of enticed you. Can you remember when you first picked it up and what your first experiences of flipping through the rule book were?
Yeah, so I got it as a Father's Day gift. And my wife was kind enough, my kids are young enough that when I say Father's Day gift, it was really like, the wife is buying stuff for me. But which is nice. But she got me that, and she got me I think it's called the compendium. It's like it's got like a couple different expansions and a game called Bug Hunt, which is based off the same like core engine but functions a little differently. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even and they both came in the cellophane, and I didn't even open up the compendium, like the rules themselves. So I kind of sat down, and you kind of wrestle with the rule book for a while before you feel like you actually understand what's going on with the game.
Yeah. And it's quite a small rule book, right? It's not like an A4 size. It's kind of like a condensed little tome, right?
Yeah, it's not too terribly big. And really, like, kind of, I think a lot of it is the random tables. A lot of D100 tables. So I think that's kind of the dirty little secret of the game, is that it's while the combat is fun, it's not complicated. And I think it's there's not that much to it. It's rewarding, and it's enjoyable, but it's not like a very crunchy slog to figure out who hit who. It's you roll a few dice, and you have your combat phase done. So yeah, it's pretty manageable.
Let's, before we kind of dig into like mechanics and further to that, superficially and artistically, how does the book look to you? Has it got interesting art, interesting colors, interesting layout?
I think it has very modern sensibilities when it comes to the art. And I don't want to be at all disparaging, but it's not my favorite. Like, I'm not in love with the art in the book. But I like it. It's very functional, but it's funny. I have Traveler as well, which is another TTRPG, and it looks so much the same. Like the kind of the digital sci-fi art is very similar.
Mm-hmm. So that's good. So more functional stuff. So you're not going to get distracted by all the beautiful artwork instead of playing your game. But you've got certain art pieces which emphasize and encourage you to live within the world, but without being too distracting. Would you say?
Yeah, and they do also, like, they very deliberately keep some things pretty vague. I don't know that there's any pictures of models in the book, which is a little odd for a miniatures game. Mm-hmm. But it is mini agnostic. They say somewhere in there, like, we keep descriptions of the bad guys pretty vague, so you can feel good about using your whatever minis you have to hand.
My Little Pony.
Yeah, could be, I suppose. I mean, there's probably some of those kicking around my house somewhere.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, yeah. They're just trying to think about what the bad guys would be from my girl's playroom, right? It would be like, some Barbies, yeah. My Little Ponies, some Sylvanian families, they're really bad guys.
Yes.
That's cool, man. So as we kind of think about maybe starting a game, if me and you were starting a game together, the creation of your group is pretty big within Five Parsecs from home, right? So talk to us about how big the group is, maybe. Talk to us about how those groups are formed.
So you start with 6 guys, and that is the maximum number that you can bring into a battle. At least for the standard rules, I think you can add or subtract to that to like increase, decrease difficulty. It's very modular that way. So default is you got six members of your crew, and they are generally like randomly generated. You can like look at your models and decide what species or type they are, and then you can kind of roll them up from there. But I did go for my first campaign with the just totally randomly generated.
Yeah.
So, the first thing you roll up is the species, and it's very heavily weighted towards human. That's the vibe they were trying to go for. A like mostly human universe that has a lot of different aliens in it. But I think I ended up with my initial roster had 5 humans and 1 feral, which is like I believe they're supposed to be uplifted animals, so like kind of a dog or a cat person kind of thing.
Okay. Not an American comedian.
No,
it's a joke.
Not that.
It's a joke there, Dave. You get that? It's a very bad joke. I'm sneaking some more in. Okay, so like kind of maybe genetically modified or evolved dogs. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any like Anchorman miniatures. No. Although I've seen them actually. Now that I say that out loud, is Crooked Dice has some miniatures that are walking that line of like copyright infringement.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. That like there's a lot of.
Sorry if I said that out loud publicly. Maybe I'm not supposed to.
No. But it's something that came up in the Discord just recently, and we'll touch upon that in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of mini agnostic games that, especially ones that encourage you to, get involved in that nostalgia. There's 7TV Pulp Alley. That I really want to create like a Indiana Jones warband, and I really want to kind of have Dr. Jones Senior and Junior, have Short Round, and have Willie in there. I just want to have a little warband that's just Indiana Jones, and it's great that can be a thing, and it kind of like it makes me sad when copyright infringement things pop up, because I think. Yes, if you've created something, you've got a right to kind of make money from that if you were the sole creator of that, but also it just kind of shuts down a lot of really great opportunities that we could have, right?
Yeah, I think because it was to everyone's surprise, GW is involved in the latest dust up, and I think there's kind of like there's a line there somewhere, I'm sure, and it is difficult. But there's part of me that's like, well, Disney owns Alien now, so are they going to sue GW over the appearance of their Tyranids?
Yeah.
Because tell me there wasn't some
yeah, that's the thing.
Cross-pollination.
Yeah. It's like who owns the concept of a dwarf, for example? It's
right.
Like because GW don't own the superhuman in armor. It's like I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? It's really difficult.
That was really. I think the power armor.
Yeah.
The oldest example of it I know of is, and I've not read it, but the original Starship Troopers novel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have their backpacks, the specific backpacks. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it just, there are some things that are like, okay, maybe this is exactly like a Primaris Marine or whatever. That's like towing the line and like getting a little too close to the line. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it is tough because I kind of wondered, and not as a rhetorical question, kind of as an honest question, even if a bit of a cheeky one. Like, if you put whoever is like in charge up at the top of like kind of the corporate ladder there, mm-hmm. if you put down like a Brotherhood of Steel Paladin miniature, yep. and a Space Marine miniature and a Xenomorph miniature and a Tyranid miniature, could they pick out the two that they own?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, maybe they could. I'm not saying that they definitely can't, but it kind of, it does make you wonder. And I agree with you. It's like, if you created thing, other people making money off of it kind of would be like not a great feeling. But like, if you didn't even create it, you just like kind of have inherited it now. I don't know. I feel like it's not how IP law works, but it feels a little bit weird to be like, hey, like you can't make something that looks like this thing that someone else made for us 20 years ago.
Yeah, but they borrowed 3 or 4 different things to make that one thing. It's difficult, and I'm slightly more involved in it because I did a course recently, and we were talking about it's like very specific that you have to use certain content when you're leading a certain workshop. It's like a workshop leader thing. It's like, so I'm leading workshops for a certain brand, like educational brand, and it's like you have to use our stuff, and you can't use TED Talks as an example because we don't have an agreement with TED Talks to be able to use within our courses, and you kind of get that. But we talked about stuff, and it was like you need to adapt things 20%. That's the general rule. If you adapt something 20%, it's now yours and it's not someone else's. And that surprised me. Actually, because it was like 20% is not a lot. So I only need to change. They should take like this idea of a space marine. I just need to change 20% of that to make it my own. And so if you got a 28 mil figure, like if you change the helmet, right? That's probably 10%, I would say, right? So you're going to need to change maybe his shoes. So if you get a space marine and change the shoes and the helmet, that's about 20%, right? So that's interesting. But I know we're getting slightly off track, but I think it's really important to note is that it's just an interesting world we're in, and it happens in music. I think it happens in music. There's been some famous cases over the last kind of few years that have happened within music where a certain music entity has tried to sue another music entity for copyright infringement or a certain chord progression, and when I've looked at those a little bit, I'm not like an expert in them, but when I look at those a little bit, it's not actually the artist that's complaining, the older artist. It's an organization that owns the rights. So there's a lot of musicians that have sold the rights to their music to big organizations. Bruce Springsteen will be one that probably everyone does know, and so that artist no longer has control over their thing that they've created, and so it's not actually the artist that's grumpy. It's not actually the artist that's pissed off. It's the company that wants to continue having a monopoly or continue having, or equally just to stay relevant. So there's certain times where a company has sued an artist, a modern artist, with no intent to actually follow that through. They just want to make that past music that's kind of similar relevant, so that it gets fresh into people's minds again. So it's more of a corporate money-making thing as opposed to a genuine actual. I mean, I'm very fortunate as I've spoken to a lot of sculptors and a lot of rules writers, and generally speaking, when you're working within that cottage industry, if somebody takes your rule book and creates some fan-made content, they tend to be like, great, that's amazing, brilliant, fantastic. Now, maybe that's because of the scale of it. If they were like, making $1 million a year, and they would then be making $500,000 a year instead of making $1 million a year, maybe that would be slightly different. But I don't know. It kind of makes me sad that we can't collaborate and develop things together without starting to be like, hey, this guy is stealing my copyright, this guy is my intellectual property. Makes me a little bit sad that we can't collaborate a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, I do. I think there are really legitimate cases, but like you're saying, if like you're just dragging someone for your own publicity, like that's low, because you're wasting that other person's time and money. So yeah, I don't know. I find these things hard to wrestle with. I try not to immediately take one side or the other just because I'm like, oh, they're a big corporation, ergo evil, and because there's legitimate complaints, I'm sure, but yeah, it's hard. And I mean, I'm not an expert on any of this. I've looked into some IP law stuff, and mostly what I've found is that it's really wibbly wobbly and confusing.
Yeah.
But like I'd kind of like I'd like to be able to sell my IPs for giant gobs of money. At least have that option on the table. But then it's like, why would they do that if they can't then defend their right to that IP?
Yeah.
So that kind of cuts against what I was saying earlier. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not I'm not even close to being a lawyer, so I don't.
No, it's a mature standpoint that you've got, which I really appreciate, and then I think there's a bunch of things that we just generally accept to be good and true and factual, and I don't know if even those are actually what we should be accepting as good and true and factual. Like, the fact that these things even happen. That just think about the hundreds of thousands of dollars that will be spent on one of these cases, and it's like, do we really need to do this? Does this really need to actually happen? Like, is this the best way to deal with these things? I don't actually know, and it just Anyway, but back to Five Parsecs. So you mentioned that it's mainly human in nature. You got a squad of 6 guys, or a group of 6 guys, a crew of 6 guys, and some potential aliens. So you had 5 human beings and 1 feral. So talk to us about those individual characters and maybe kind of like how they were created and what you liked about them or grew to like about them.
Yeah. So roll up the first guy. He's a human, and he ended up being my captain. So his name is Banner, and it doesn't have any name generation in the books. You just kind of have to go for it, come up with something yourself. So he was, he kind of rolled up enough of like a combat character that I felt like he would make a good captain for me. Mm-hmm. And so I went with that. You know what? I am underprepared. I am gonna step over to the other side of the room and grab my character sheet.
Yeah, cool. Nice, man. I'm gonna get some gravestone blue out of the drawer while I've got a moment. There you go. And I'm gonna use my mixer while we're on some downtime. I might leave this in because I don't often get to use my paint mixer during a show, so this could be like a little interlude. Everyone's enjoying listening to me mix my paint. Nicely mixed.
This is quality radio here.
This is what you're paying the top dollar for. This is why you're not paying top dollar for this podcast.
All right, is your paint mixed?
It is nicely mixed. I am now even putting it on as we speak. I am painting a Viking type guy's loincloth, like a kind of bluey grey.
Okay. Yeah, I'm working on this month's painting challenge.
Oh, nice.
So,
I'm terrible with the painting challenges. I always intend to participate and then just forget. So what is this month's painting challenge? Go on, this is a time as we get back into it. What is this month's painting challenge?
So there was just a 1-word prompt of mounted.
Okay.
So there's some really neat stuff that I've seen some of the other fellas working on. Somebody's got, I think there's an armored horse. Someone's doing a trio of orcs or goblins on wargs.
Nice, yeah, I saw those.
Yeah, I'm doing a kind of a 80s action hero looking guy.
Yeah, your dragon guy, where he's got like a flamer as a tail, right?
Yes, that's the one. So super cool. Yeah, I was kind of psyched about it once I got the model together, because it's kind of just like an old dinosaur toy that was laying around the house, and I modified the soldier so that he could sit on it. He's got a little green stuff saddle that no one should look at. And
when I looked at yours, I just thought like the tauntaun that the 5-year-old me would create. That's what I thought.
Yeah, there you go.
Right, well, back to it. You got your character sheet, right? So you said that you got your main guy was Banner. Talk to us about Banner.
So Banner came out with, he came from a primitive world. So you get a background, and then you get a motivation that was freedom, and his class, or what he is best described as, was a scoundrel. So each one of those things, the name gives you an idea for how you want to kind of build your narrative around it. But it also gives you a mechanical bonus of some kind. So I don't have that table up in front of me right now, but primitive world, I think, gives you one low-tech weapon, which might be anything from like a shotgun to a blade, but low-tech in terms of it's not sci-fi.
Yeah.
So I think low-tech does include some firearms, but primitive in terms of other people have lasers.
That's cool, man. So just dig around that. I don't know if it's just my, curiosity and things that I like, but just primitive world, you're right. Freedom, scoundrel. That's just cool, right? You can just picture that guy.
And I've got a model that I'm using a model now. That's just a Stargrave model that I had made up years ago that I like just fine, but I kind of I have a model that I haven't painted yet that's going to replace that one when I get around to because I think he better suits, he's the model I'm going to use has some bits of fur on his cloak and a big bushy beard, and he just looks more like he's freedom-loving scoundrel from a primitive world.
Right. Because talk to us about that. How did you interpret that word freedom in this guy, his background?
Well, I think it was one of the other characters ended up being from, I used the phrase earlier, a subjugated colony on an alien world. So I kind of got this idea in my head that was the same planet. Maybe they both came from the same place. And both of those descriptors could be for the same planet. So I thought maybe what he was looking for freedom from was this, whoever these aliens were that had that population subjugated.
That's where my mind went straight away. It went to kind of some sort of gladiator kind of potential scenario, or like you're saying, subjugated kind of thing, where maybe some oppressors had come and he was looking to he'd escaped and then was maybe potentially looking to stay away, or maybe even a good-natured person looking to kind of increase the amount of people that have that freedom that he's managed to get for himself, right?
kind of a freedom fighter, not just a
man, that's
not
cool.
Just looking out for number one.
But that's the thing. That's why it's good, right? Because it just gives you an invitation, right? By saying freedom, by saying scoundrel, you can make sense of that yourself, and I think it kind of really enables those ideas and concepts to kind of take root, because you can take them in a direction that you want to.
Yes.
So
I think my next guy I rolled up was I named him Sly. He's my other he was my only original fair on the group, the only non-human, and he was kind of a strange one because his background was that he was a bureaucrat, and then his interest, his motivation is technology, and his class was that he was from a starship crew.
Right. So
that was just kind of an odd thing to roll up, especially I think when I thought, the word feral kind of evokes a sort of more barbaric sort of character, but then he's interested in technology. He's a rat, very, very different from his kind of freedom fighter captain.
I just thought about Beast from X-Men straight away when you were talking about that guy.
Yeah, I love Beast. That's a good call out. That's that kind of deliberately, like there's a deliberate contrast between the character's appearance and his attitude.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Starship Crew. So what's the perk, what's the benefit that you get by having been part of a Starship Crew?
Oh, let me see if I can dig that up.
But like, while you're doing it, this is a good thing about it, because even before the game's begun on the tabletop, you're kind of thinking about, I kind of liken it to, you are playing the game. Like we're kind of playing the game. I got inverted commas here. We're kind of playing the game now, just by saying some words. I would say, to a certain degree, we're playing a game, because we're interacting with the ideas, we're interacting with the concepts. And when I played 5 Parsecs from home, we've rolled our groups together. So we actually meet for our first play session is to create the groups, and so you can talk about this. And then there's been like a kind of like, I pass the idea to you. You maybe shape it a little bit like a Rubik's Cube. You kind of tinker around with it a little bit, pass it back to me. And you just have this really good conversation about like what the groups are. And then after that, you can go away and actually make the models or find the models from your collection. We just done there, like, you just said some words and I'm like, a Beast from X-Men. And then so you can use that as a basic idea to then think about, how could I, if I like that, have I got a model that looks a bit like Beast, or could I find one, or could I just, paint this kind of wolf guy blue, or can I take that head off that guy and put a wolf head on it and paint that blue, or whatever it is. It's just, I say we're playing the game now, I would say.
Yeah. Just like a few episodes back, you talked to the creator of Country Road Z, or County Road Z.
Yeah.
I always want to put an R in there. And he had they both, County Road Z and 5 Parsecs are published by Modiphius. Mm-hmm. And they both have this kind of element of a lot of the gameplay actually doesn't happen on the table. Mm-hmm. They both have the kind of, in 5 Parsecs, it's the pre-battle and post-battle phases. Mm-hmm. A lot of the game happens there. A lot of the game happens in your about just how much of the hobby can be happening while you're just doing something sort of mindless at work.
Yeah.
That, you're kind of working at the game even while you're not playing the game. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of the appeal of it, is like there is, it probably doesn't look like the most exciting game. I'm standing over a book and rolling D100s occasionally, but in my head, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
So,
it's an extra level to reading. I quite like thinking about what's going to happen in the next chapter of the book that I'm reading when I pick it up. As I kind of get to my reading routine in the evening. So it's kind of like a more interactive version of that, because you can actually change and adapt the narrative.
I think that's one of the things that I enjoy about watching a TV show with my wife, is like discussing what happened in the previous episode, guessing at what's going to happen in the following. There's a level of enjoyment, even when you're not directly doing the thing.
Yeah, that's cool. So Starship Crew, do we know what the benefit of being an Starship Crew member is?
It is +1 savvy. So savvy is kind of your intelligence score. It's what you use when you need to repair something that's broken, and it can give you a little tactical advantage on the battlefield.
Nice.
Yeah, he turned out to be a bit of a thinker. He came back and try to pick off the enemies from a distance sort of character. Mm-hmm. Not really my brawler, but definitely a favorite that I really enjoy putting on the battlefield. I actually used a miniature for him that I had built from scratch, of a little kind of dog-faced space piratey looking guy.
Nice. That's cool. So the forming of a crew and the getting to know them and forming a relationship with them is really important. So let's move ahead now to the pre-game. So before we play a scenario on a tabletop, there's opportunities to kind of poke around. So talk to us a little bit about what that is before we get to the tabletop part.
Yeah, so the first thing you do in a campaign or when traveling, or if you travel, is you roll up a new world. And it doesn't give you a whole lot of details on that. It's pretty bare minimum, but it just, you roll up like a trait for the world and kind of what kind of licensing requirements there are to work there, and that kind of stuff. The real exciting stuff. And so once you have that, you can choose what you want your crew to do in that post-game or that pre-game period. And you can have them train, which will give you a little experience, which you can use to improve stats, but you don't get a lot of experience. It's by far the safest thing, or one of the safe things for them to do. Because other options include explore and trade. But when you explore or trade, you can roll pretty badly and you can have some ugly consequences. Actually go out trading and lose stuff. Or you can go out exploring and get the snot beat out of you and stuff like that. So, there's some tactical decision making there, because it's a high risk, high reward scenario with trading or exploring, or it's no risk but low reward to train. And then there's also looking for patrons, deliberately trying to track down rivals if you have, or trying to avoid rivals. Because rivals will, if your rivals find you at the beginning of your battle, they will disrupt what you were going to do, and you will get a lot less out of that battle. You just won't get the kind of rewards that you would get for doing something you were, going out of your way to do.
Mm-hmm. And so let's say that we've chosen to do a few things before our mission. What sort of missions, what sort of scenarios will we encounter when we're playing the game?
Well, if you have patrons, they can send you on patron missions. If you don't, you can take what I think are called jobs of opportunity or opportunity missions. And those just don't pay as well as the patron jobs, but they're generally so. They range from like a delivery run where you just something to the middle to eliminate, where there's a randomly chosen enemy is going to be your target, and if you eliminate them, you win this. Move through is just at least two of your guys have to get the entire field. And then what really makes the scenarios are all they're not all the same. There are different scenarios that play differently. But I think the real interest is when you pick the enemies for the match. Those vary widely from tech cultists to scavengers to kind of alien beasties. Mm-hmm. And so who you are fighting probably has a bigger impact on the difficulty of the mission than the actual scenario of the mission. Mm-hmm. And usually if you can eliminate all the enemies, do which they call hold the field. If you can manage to hold the field, you generally get an automatic win on delivery or whatever, because you then have free reign to do whatever you like.
Yeah.
But if you're going up against five or six armored bounty hunters and they've got really good weapons, and you've got a delivery to do, you might just do your delivery dodge.
Yeah.
But if it's three just kind of generic low-level bad guys of some kind, you might just try and clear them all out. Benefit.
Yeah. That's cool, man. So, what table space are we playing on? How is that table set up and generated before the game begins?
So there's not a lot of rules for setting. Like, there aren't scenarios like, here's the starport and here's what you want for like the old temple and stuff like that. They generally recommend, I think it's 2.5 to 4 foot play spaces, like square. And then enough terrain that you can't like draw a line straight across, so that there's things to hide behind, and multiple levels is nice if you've got the stuff for it. So it's kind of whatever scatter terrain and buildings and stuff you have that you want on the table.
Nice. How long do scenarios tend to last?
They're short by like wargaming standards. I think I'd say under an hour per like actual battle scenario. Probably half an hour to 1 hour. I don't know that I haven't timed them necessarily, and it's one of those things where if I'm playing it, it's because I've got enough time to not be looking at the.
Yeah.
So, not like super sure on that, but I'd say somewhere around a half hour to an hour.
It doesn't outstay its welcome as something that's really important, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think you hear this kind of thing on this podcast a lot, but as a husband and father, I don't really have a lot of days where I can just go and play like a 4-hour battle on my buddy's like kitchen table. So if I can just sit down and get in a half-hour solo skirmish on my own dining room table, like that there's a lot of appeal there to me.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about turn structure. How would any one given turn play out?
So it would start with like the first round. Before it starts, you get to make one 2d6 roll plus the savvy score of your, like the highest savvy score on your team. So this is where that comes in handy. And if you get I think it's a 10 plus, you get to either move or shoot. All of your characters as kind of a free action because you kind of got the drop on.
Yeah.
So that's like the first round. And then once that's over, you roll one dice for each 1d6 for each of your characters. And if that score, then you get to distribute those dice among the characters. If you rolled under their reaction score, they get to go in the fast round.
Yeah.
So higher reaction score is better. Most characters start with 1. So you're rolling 6 dice and hoping for as many ones as possible, because that you'll get to go, and then all the enemies get to go. And then after that, it is everybody all of your guys that didn't get to go in the fast phase.
Nice.
So yeah, reaction scores are pretty important in terms of, if you want to be able to position and attack before the enemy gets to do so. The higher your reaction score, the better.
Yeah.
It's very wild.
What do you like about playing the game? The narrative aspect we've talked about quite a lot. Generation of characters, the kind of narrative kind of notes that you can riff off. But what about what keeps you coming back to play the tabletop? A while ago you mentioned its simplicity but functional. Is there anything else that you want to mention about things that you really like when you're actually playing on that tabletop?
Yeah, I think it's a case of the rules are simple, so they're easy to understand, but there's enough complexity in how they actually play out on the table that, every battle doesn't feel the same. There's general things that are just going to be true, like characters that I'm going to try to move up because they have shorter range weapons, and I want to, act as bullet sponges and do some damage. And then I've got other characters that are going to stay back and play more of a support role. But there are, just because I set the terrain up myself, and so I kind of like can vary that, and that changes tactics. So I think I like it's really a game about like positioning, as a lot of, I suppose, skirmish games are. Like you're just trying to get to an advantageous position, and sometimes that's tougher than you expect because you don't have. You start out with, I think the typical character has a movement of 5 inches or speed. No, it's 4. 4 is like typically the base speed, 4 inches. And on a 3-foot table, that's not a whole lot of movement. So you've got to use it pretty intelligently. Even if the table's pretty busy, you can still end up with somebody out. And yeah, I think it provides enough. It provides enough variety, even with the fairly simple rules, that every game doesn't feel like samesies. If you're fighting a bounty hunter with a sniper rifle, that's going to be very different from fighting like a razor lizard that's going to be running straight at you.
Yeah.
Just hoping it can slice you in half before you can shoot it.
How does the solo aspect link into the tabletop? How is it decided what the opposition are going to be doing during their turn?
So there are a handful of different like AIs, in kind of the old school wargamer sense of that. A couple different artificial intelligences. Some enemies are aggressive, some enemies are cautious, and then there's some other kind of tactics in the middle of that. But that's going to determine what an individual figure do their particular AI. So obviously an aggressive character is going to move towards you. A defensive character is going to try to stay in range and in cover. And so that's, it's a pretty simple set of rules that each type of AI has. And then you mix that with a lot of different movement speeds, a lot of different weapons. The weapons are actually rolled separate from the enemies. So there's an almost unlimited number that all have fairly different statistics and just sort of overall profiles. Mm-hmm. So, whether they have a weapon with an 8-inch range, how close they need to get to you if they are cautious. Or, if they don't have ranged weapons and they're just a melee, a beast or whatever, then, they're going to behave very, very differently yet. So, it's a pretty comprehensive system, making enemies feel like what they are statted to be, which I think is big why it works as a solo.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that, you've got to feel like there's variety. In any campaign game, in any game where you're going to be playing multiple times, potentially playing the missions multiple times, you need to make sure you got a variety in there to kind of keep it fresh and interesting. Is there anything else on the tabletop that you want to mention before we go into post-game and what happens after our missions?
Yeah, I think I'll give a shout to the compendium book. There's some things in there that I haven't used personally, but that I'm very interested in attempting. They have a system where you can you'll have threat markers on the table, but not know what they are until you kind of spring them. So, that kind of changes, like, okay, I don't, when I activate this threat marker, I just know that there's a bad guy in that room somewhere.
Yeah.
And if I get too close to it, it's going to show up. And there's a lot really, like, I'm pretty happy with the base game rate, but I like some of the stuff I'm seeing in the expansions that I just think are going to keep the game fresh for a long time.
Yeah.
If it gets to the point where I'm like a little like, okay, I've done the 5 parsecs thing, I can go into the compendium and I can find some elements that'll make it new. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think other than that, that's most of the tabletop part.
So as we kind of finish our missions, there's like what happens at the end, because there's certain things that could happen during a game. So let's say that I'm kind of knocked down, or I'm taken off the board, or I suffer in kind of some way. What kind of happens to us and our group at the end of a mission, regardless? You talk about if we succeed or if we don't succeed our mission.
Yeah, so that's going to mostly have an effect on pay and what kind of loot you get. But you can fail a mission and it's, oh no, like I'm never going to recover. You typically will. What matters a lot more, anyone got taken out of action during the game. Mm-hmm. Because, if you lose the mission, but everybody gets off, okay, it's like, we didn't get as many credits this time around as we'll make it through. But when someone gets taken out of action, you have injury, pretty dicey.
Nice pun.
I mean, of course it is. Yeah. But yeah, so you can roll anything from a gruesome fate, where you are dead and all equipment carried is damaged, to School of Hard Knocks, where you will just earn 1 XP for your troubles. So probably the most annoying thing, sick bay, which is where, with a couple of different results, you have to stay out of the game for a certain number of missions as that character's recovered. So that can be a real nuisance, especially if you don't have some extra guys in your roster that slot on the battlefield.
Yeah. Nice, man. And so is the injury roll the only thing? Is it only negative things, or can there be some potential positives at the end of the game too?
Yeah, so you do get, depending on what all happens, like there's a multi-step process for the post-battle, figuring out whether or not the people you just became are your rivals now, like if they've taken it personally. Right. Depending on what you're doing, you might, if you're on a quest, which is kind of a specific subsystem in the game that's got some more rewards at the end of it, quest process or progress, you get paid for the mission, you do that's just how many credits you get for. Then you get things like battlefield finds and you get to see what kind of stuff you stumbled upon, and that can be to a really slick new weapon. And that's all, the rolling for the loot and the credits and everything, that's all fun, and as well as getting your experience for the various things that your characters did in the game. And then comes a few steps later, the campaign events and the character events.
Yeah, well, just before just before we get onto those, have you got any kind of experience of like rolling really well and getting some cool stuff in the post game? Have you ever like rolled really terribly and something bad's happened? Have you got any kind of fun experiences from that?
Yeah, I have not. I can't remember any specific games where it was like, everything just came up you know,
Millhouse.
yes, that's what I was looking for. Everything just came up Millhouse. It was in my head before you said it. That was like, I couldn't think of what else I should say. Yeah. I don't know. I've definitely picked up some neat things. I've got one of those things, you know how you get, and you're like, this is too good to use. I will.
Yeah.
So I got something called a time distorter, which is going to let these 3 enemies for a full turn. And I haven't found a time to use it because I'm like, no, it's too good. I'm doing all right. I don't.
That's cool.
But yeah, trying to think. Yeah, I found some really nice stuff. I just can't remember if they were from trade rolls or loot rolls. It all kind of blurs.
Yeah, I think it's good that you've got this evolving narrative, and you've got things that potentially change, and you've got things that maybe challenge you. You got things that maybe ask you some different questions. I think that's what's interesting about both the pre-game and the post-game, is that it kind of elbows the norm in the ribs a little, and then how you respond to that is whether you like the game or not. So, you know, how flexible are you with going in a different direction? How interested are you with continuing to forge different narratives? And I think the pre and the post game do that really, really well. So you might potentially
they can really throw you for a loop for sure. And it's those campaign and character events that get you.
Those are the memorable bits, right? Let's move on. Let's move on to the whole, like, the big, you know, overview of the game. You know, is there an end point? Does it ever end? You know, how does the campaign fit in?
Well, yeah, and that's actually one of the things I do appreciate about it. Types of like campaigns in war games tend open-ended to the point of like, you know, are you just supposed to play till it's not fun anymore?
Yeah.
Like that's how a lot of Frostgrave or Stargrave campaigns seem to end, is like everybody was just like, I think I'm not having a good time anymore, and that seems like a shame. So
yeah,
this game you can kind of choose what you're, and so one of the goals was complete 3 quests, which is what I've chosen for my first campaign. And so I'm working on that. I haven't completed one yet. It's probably largely like user error, that I'm on, like, I think encounter 11 or encounter 12 for this particular campaign, and completed 1 quest. Mm-hmm. But, you know, that's kind of, a lot of it has to do with dice rolls. If you don't get a lot of quest rumors in dice roll, you can't move on. But yeah, there's other ways to play. I think the Me, Myself, and Die campaign, he wanted to take out 3 unique individuals, which is a particular aspect of the game where if you roll the right things, your enemies will include unique, being generic. A secret agent that has a particular objective of his own, like to take out one of your guys in particular or something like that. So there are a few different ways to set a goal for yourself that once you've reached that, you have completed your campaign. And if you're really enjoying your characters and you want to, you can a new goal, or you can just roll up a new crew or move on to a different.
That's good, man. That's really cool. Is it anything you feel like we've not mentioned that you want to bring up before we round it out?
No, I mean, I guess just I think one thing, just like kind of an overall tie together some of what we is just, I have one character that I think is kind of, so I named him Chen, He's from a peaceful, high-tech colony, and he's a trader. And so he just... That's trader with a D, not traitor.
That's just what I was thinking, mate.
Yeah.
So you're butchering the English language. Come on, you Americans.
My T's and D's do get blurry.
I'm joking, mate.
But no, it's well, it's awful that I've got I've got like a couple folks in my life that have just like kind of shown me that I'm indeed butchering the language I speak oftentimes, and it's just like, you know, people that really enunciate their but yeah. Anyway, so like this character he just let me down in combat constant. And he eventually rolled like that he was depressed about all the bloodshed or whatever, and he wasn't going to sit out. And I was like, I am going to just fire this guy. But you can also do some kind of like advanced training. And so since he's a trader, I sent him to like merchant school, and now I get to use him in like the pre-battle phase for trading, and I can re-roll one trade roll per pre-battle phase.
Yeah.
So he's become kind of this utility character, never really sees the tabletop, but is like an integral part. And I think that's pretty neat for a game of this style.
Yeah.
Like, he's not useful in combat, but he's actually really useful. And like, I like that kind of, and like, you know, he's had like a bit of a history with the group now. I think it might not have been the same turn where he decided not to fight, but he ended up like in a brawl with the captain because of a campaign event where like two of my guys were supposed to fight, and I had to roll for it, and it was Chen and the captain, and I was like, all right, that makes sense. Like, this guy is not pulling his weight. Like, they have been at each other, but like since then it's like, it's just, he's a cool part of my crew, and as one of the supporting characters who would probably be divisive among the fans. But just, you know, it's fun that like, even though the game, like, I've got a guy who's kind of my merchant that helps make us a profitable organization instead of just a group of cutthroat outlaws.
Yeah.
So yeah, that he in particular, he doesn't have a lot of great stories about what he did on the table because of the things he's just memorable.
Yeah, and I think that's what the whole point of playing the game, isn't it? I think when you look back at, you know, a campaign that you've played or a game that you've played, you're looking for those little memorable moments that you can pick out, and then hopefully the game allows those memorable moments to happen, and it just makes it a little bit more rich, it makes it a little bit more deeper, and it makes it a little bit more interesting, right? Because you can talk about it, and it's like, oh, that's cool. It's cool that the game allowed that to happen. Mm-hmm. That's cool. But anyway, that's all we've got time for. We've gone slightly over time. Apologies to keep you a little bit later on your Saturday night. I know leisure time is very hard won, but I thought we were on a roll, and I thought we were doing okay, so decided to continue. So there you go, 5 Parsecs from home. It's really cool, man, that you've taken the time to talk to us about it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So there you go, episode 268, all wrapped up there. Sleepy boy today. I managed to shake off the sickness, the illness. Just proper sleepy. it's kind of getting to that time of the year where, like, you know, you've been working in the school year anyway, that you're kind of working for a long time, and everyone's starting to get a little bit tired, everyone's starting to get a little bit sick, everyone's starting to get a little bit grumpy. But yeah, man, just on with it, rolling. 4 weeks until Christmas now, until we break up for Christmas break. Hopefully you guys are looking forward to Christmas. I always really look forward to Christmas. It's always really a good time of the year for celebrating and hijinks and highfalutin and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, looking forward to it. Hobby stuff. What am I doing hobby-wise? I feel like I've been chewing through the same kind of 4 units for A Song of Ice and Fire for ages now. I got like Silenced Men. I've got Stony Shore Pillagers. I've got Iron Victory Crew, and then I got those that cavalry unit, the Tully Cavaliers, and I feel like I've been painting like the boring ass parts of them, like 40 guys. There's 40 guys in total. It's like 36 infantry dudes, and then like 4 cavalry for ages. I feel like I'm painting like boots and straps and belts and bags and all the, like, you know, I don't think anyone gets excited painting like fucking bags, do they? Really, to be fair. I mean, if you're sitting there and you're thinking, oh, I love painting bags, I love painting the bags that are on people's belts. Yeah, good. Yeah, rock it, man. You go with it. But I don't know. I just find it pretty difficult to get excited about washing a bag that's on someone's belt, man. Like, you put the kind of base layer on and you kind of wash it, and you put the base layer back on, and then it's like you get into the highlights, and it's like, yeah, man, it's not like a sword. I kind of quite like doing a sword. You know, you kind of put the base metallic on. You know, you kind of put the wash on, especially around like the handle and the kind of the cross piece. That's kind of cool. And then you kind of put the highlights on the sword. That's kind of cool. It's like the sword. It's an exciting bit. You know, or like the nose. The nose is pretty exciting. You know, you kind of put a highlight on the nose. You know, that kind of stuff. But yeah, something bag on a belt, man. You're not really getting excited. So I feel like I've been painting like the boring parts of like 40 miniatures for, like, you know, since the last Ice Age. But I'm hoping to kind of round out those 40 guys over the next kind of few days. And I can hopefully like start on another unit, you know, when you kind of get that kind of Christmas morning feel of like cracking a new box and painting a new unit. So hopefully I'll do that. That's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, that's what I've been doing hobby-wise. Interested to know what you guys have been doing hobby-wise. Should we take a look at the Discord? Let's take a look at the Discord. What's been going on in the whips section in here? Okay, I'm gonna skip that quote from Mr. Lars Gottlieb. He's put a potentially contentious quote on there. Let's kind of scroll up. Dave Schmidt, what's he been doing? Dave Schmidt has been doing his rat army. No, he's been painting some pictures. He says that he's guilty that he's not been painting his Skaven army, and he's kind of posted a picture of what it's been looked like for the last year or so. That's because Mr. Edible has been posting his Skaven army. That's been really good. Thanks for that, Ed. He's been posting a number of different pictures about his Skaven army. They've got 3-handed banners. That's been really good to look. What else has been happening? Mr. or Ms. DJO22 has been painting some kind of undead, kind of zombie redcoats straight from the Iron Maiden The Trooper album cover art. It's kind of like some zombie guys with kind of British Napoleonic era red coats. That's been pretty good to see. Lars again has been posting some Shadowrun guys. What else has been going on? Mark has been painting up his wood elves for kind of like old hammer. That's been pretty good. Should we do one more? What else has been happening? John Dawson has been painting up his Conflict 47 models. He's got a kind of like a German kind of Panzer spidery tank for Conflict 47. That's been pretty cool. There you go. So if that kind of tickles your fancy, if you are not a Discord member, but you are a post-ramble rambler, you can click on the link in the description. You can go and see what other people have been hanging out and doing on the Discord. And what else? What was I doing recently? Food. Yeah, last weekend I cooked a rib of beef. That's what I did last weekend. If you are a long-time post-ramble rambler, you'll know that I've been trying to upgrade my meat cooking game at home. Where I live in the world, they don't really do a great job of searing meat. It's kind of very different culinary preference over here. So like searing meat is not really something that they tend to do pretty well. It's not really something that that a lot of restaurants do. So I've been learning how to sear meat properly, and I've been learning how to kind of like, you know, oven bake meat. So last weekend I dry brined some rib of beef for 24 hours, and then I roasted it in the oven. It's quite a big, hefty, chunky bit of beef, and I was trying to get it kind of medium rare throughout. So that was pretty interesting. I did a pretty good job. But if you're into cooking, if you're into chefing, you can check out that on the food Discord chat, and you can let me know. It's probably a bit in the picture. It's a little bit more than medium rare. Like medium rare is probably like 25% kind of grey around the outside, and then the kind of 75% in the inside is kind of like a pinky kind of colour. So it was hard with a rib of beef, because a rib of beef is like kind of like an oblong kind of shape. It's not like a kind of circle or a square or a cube. It's a kind of like natural shape. That's the annoying thing about cows. They don't grow in like a cube shape. They're probably a look ahead to the future. Probably in the future they will. There'll be like kind of cube shaped steak that we can do. And so because it's not like kind of like a official kind of normal shape, in the sense of like it's a rectangle would be great, because like, you know, it's kind of cooks all the way through like consistently. You got like two ends of a rib of beef, one end's thinner, and then it kind of goes fatter in the middle, and then it's kind of like it tapers to an end at the other end, but it's a little bit bigger than the other. So it's hard to kind of get that consistency of medium rare throughout, because obviously the thinner it is, the quicker it cooks, and the thicker it is, the slower it cooks. But I think I did a pretty good job. In there, but you can come and have a look. It was also really good that Smiddy came on actually afterwards, and he said that he every so often during a year he cooks duck. So he shared pictures of the duck that he was eating, and I got very, very excited about the gravy that he showed in his duck. You know, so if you're a chef, if you're an amateur chef, and you want to kind of come and show us what it is that you're up to, then feel free to do so. But I think that's the end of the post-ramble ramble. Hope that you guys are all well. Hope that you guys are keeping it on an even keel. Same thing I said last week, you know, as we kind of come to the festive season where we're spending time with our families and things like that, make sure you reach out to your group, make sure you reach out to your squad, and kind of, you know, connect with people that maybe haven't got that kind of family unit or family group that we may be fortunate enough to have, because it's all about picking each other up, you know, when we need to pick each other up. But anyway, that's enough of the post-ramble ramble. That's enough of the post-ramble ramble. Until next time we're together, keep painting.